Hey guys, Adam Wilber here. This is the follow-up video of #AskWilber. I want to thank you guys so much for all your questions. I'm blown away with how many there are and how good of some of the questions are. They're really thought-provoking, so I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through. I'm going to start on Facebook and work my way over to YouTube and answer as much as I can for you guys. And once again, I really appreciate the support and the questions. These are great. As you probably know, we've got my next project, The Working Man's, coming out very soon, so this week. So I really appreciate your support here, and I would love your support with that project as well. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the material and then a few other bonuses that we threw on there. So hope you guys check it out, and if you do, I would love the feedback, reviews. Let me know what you think. Contact me personally, or better yet, put a review up on the page. It means the world to me to see what you guys think of the material. So let's get right into this. I'm going to start on Facebook, and I'll go through. Some questions are hilarious, some are just genuine good questions. So first thing, guys asking, is my next release a DVD? It's not going to be in a DVD format. It is just as long as a DVD. There's over 2.5 hours of material, so but it's going to be a download, so everybody can get it the day that it's out, so you don't have to wait for it to show up or pay for shipping if you're overseas. So no, it's a download. How many card effects, this is by Chris Gage, how many card effects in general should you know or be able to do before you start trying to get booked for a show or walk around? It's a good question. So basically he's asking how many tricks should you know before you try and get booked. Well, that's tough. I mean, an hour of walk around, you really could do 5 to 7 effects. And if it's a big enough group, 100+ people, you know, you're going to be walking around showing those same 3 to 7 effects to different groups. So I would say get 5 to 7 effects that aren't all cards. You know, do some coin stuff, do some linking rings, or you know, the Masato rings, something like that, where you have a nice variety of about 5 to 7 effects if you're trying to do walk around, but know them perfectly, know them so well that you don't have to think about them when you're performing. Okay, obviously the more you know. If you do some restaurant work, you're going to need to know a lot of tricks, which is great. Getting into restaurants is a good way to really hone your material, learn a lot of things, try new things out in the real world. So that's my answer to that. Jordan asks, what would you say is your go-to effect? My go-to effect probably is still the backup plan. It's one of my effects. It's a variation of a Vernon that Bill Malone did. So that's probably what I do most often. If I don't have enough time for, that's a 3-phase effect. If I don't have enough time for all 3 phases, I'll probably do something like a think of a card, and then it jumps into my pocket or switches in their hand. Something really quick and visual. Maybe it's a color change in their hand. So my go-to generally would be the backup plan. Otherwise, just a little bit of freestyling with color change or something happening in their hands. That's a good question. Valentine, a lot of these names I won't be able to pronounce, so I'm not going to hack them up, and I'm sorry if I do. But he says, what was the last effect that fooled you? That's a good question. The last effect that I saw that fooled me, actually, the most recent is something that we're putting out next month. I really can't say anything about it. I know it sucks when we say that, but it fooled me badly. I thought I knew the method, and I had no clue. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be early next month, but that one fooled me bad. Phil DC, can you explain the gimmick process from idea to prototype to final product? Great question. I deal with this a lot. So somebody comes to us, or we create something internally that needs a gimmick. So how do we take that idea, build it to a prototype, and then into manufacturing where we can get it to the market to you guys? There's a lot of steps involved in that. So basically it's getting a sample of the prototype, or I've got something here I can't show too much of, but I don't know how much of this I can show at all, actually. I don't want to give too much away, but I have something here that is exactly that. That is a prototype that I built, then sent off to one of the manufacturers I work with. They honed it, and then it goes from them back to us, and we test it, road test it in the real world, make any tweaks or upgrades that we can, and then I send it off to one of a handful of manufacturers that I deal with. And then of course we have to get the price to where we want it, and we have to make sure that they work in the real world. So the process is basically develop the prototype in-house, or put together a very well explained video to a prototype firm that we work with, and then show them the video and see if they can bring that concept into fruition. If they do so, then we start looking at cost and pricing it out so we can make it affordable to you guys. Great question though, Phil. Somebody asked if they can tell me the name of this ring, and he put a little Photoshop circle around it. That's great. It's a magician's ring. I got it from a magic shop in Florida. I know it does have a name. I don't know what it is, but you can search around, and if you even Google magician's ring and look around, you'll find them. So I've heard a story, I don't know if it's true, that these used to be used for palming cards. So if you had, they would be a lot longer, but you could put it behind your hand and you could hold a card there this way. I don't know if that's true or not, but I love the ring. I've had it for a long time. My wife actually bought me this. So. What's the most important step when creating a routine? That's a good question. To me, the most important step is making it entertaining. So you've got to know those off moments when there's a gap and you don't know what to say, or there's a move you have to cover. And instead of just, I do it all the time, but instead of just saying, hey, what's your name? Are you right or left-handed? It's great to think about all of that before getting into the routine, so the entire thing is entertaining and emotionally engaging to your spectator. It's very easy to come up with a corny story of, here's a king and he married a queen, but that can be goofy to people, and if you don't do it in the right context, the routine feels fake and a bit cheesy. So I think the most important step is really deciding what you want the end emotion to be from your spectator. Do you want them to laugh? Do you want them to feel love or passion, or just basic wonder? And then build the routine around that. I hope that answered it. This is from Michael John. What is your favorite deck of cards, and will you make your own? My favorite deck of cards, that's tough. There's so many cards out there now. I love a lot of them. I love, Jackson Robinson's Federal 52s. I love the red rounders. I love blue rounders. I love the white LTDs. They're very elegant, very pretty. I love Republic. Republics, when you get them in your hands, again, very elegant and classy. But I also love red back bikes. I love blue back bikes. I love going to a show with something that people know and don't question. So I love a lot of decks. I would say my favorite of all time, if I had to pick one, would probably be either the white LTDs or the red rounders. They're just stunning, elegant, and simple, and they don't arouse a lot of suspicion, which I like. So, will I be making my own? I don't intend to. No, I'm not. I can't draw. I don't have a very artistic eye. I'm more of a creator and entertainer than a designer, so I'll leave the designing up to, Pete, Daniel, and Mike. Next question. What would be the first steps one should make to turn his magic from a hobby to a career? Well, the first step is, it's literally getting someone to pay you to do it. If you want it to be a career, as far as that's how you make your sole living, then I would say study as much business as you can. Study negotiation, study marketing, study business in general, and then apply that to your magic. A lot of people think that just because you're a great magician, you're going to get booked. That's not at all true. There's a lot of great magicians. There's a lot of terrible magicians. But some terrible magicians are really good businessmen, so they get booked a lot. I would say the first step is learn business and realize this is about business. Obviously, your chops, your effects, your routines, they have to be up to par or better. If you want to get rebooked, you have to do something different than everyone else. So find out what makes you different, what makes you stand out, harness it, and push it everywhere. So that's what I would suggest. Okay, so this is from Frank. As a member of Ellusionist, do you get to have as many decks of cards as you want, even limited ones? Because I've always seen you guys handling decks that the average collector would wouldn't dare to open. Haha. Yeah, you know, as a perk for Ellusionist, we all work really, really hard, and you know, one of the benefits is that we design these decks. So yeah, we don't get an unlimited amount. There's only so many of rare decks out there, but one of the perks of working here is that, yeah, we get to handle and hold a lot of the things that may be hard for average Joes to get. This is from Sean. What criteria does an effect of yours have to achieve for it to be good enough for you to release it? Good question. You know, there's a quote. I'll botch the quote if I try and say it, but it's something in the lines of, I think Jay Sankey said it, but he puts everything out because he's got comments and people writing him saying he puts an effect out that maybe he doesn't think is that great, but he might get 100 or 200 people saying that's my favorite effect, thank you so much for putting it out. So I would say when you put something out, make sure it's not just someone else's trick. Obviously you don't want to steal people's material, but make sure it's entertaining, make sure you've gotten it road tested, you've tried it in the real world and it works, and all your timing and everything that's supposed to be in line is there. And then, you know, ask your peers, ask some people, what do you think about this? People that will be honest with you. I've had a lot of things where I'll go to Pete or Daniel or Brad and they just say that's not very good. And, you know, you got to take that. You know, these are people you can trust and ask honestly, is this good? And if it isn't, they'll tell you. So that's what I try and do. A lot of this stuff I put out, you know, I'm very nervous of putting out, but if you don't put it out there, you may never know if people love it or not because you're too shy or embarrassed to put it out. So talk to your magic clubs or your friend magicians and ask them. Do you think you can get amazing reactions if you, I think it's supposed to say, limit your props to just a deck of cards rather than everyday objects? Meaning, is there anything bad to having just one magic prop? Yes, there is. If you do all card magic, maybe that's your thing. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you're the card magician. But for me, just doing cards is problematic. You know, I've got to have some coin routines, some natural object things with their keys and things that they see every day. So I would say don't pigeonhole yourself into just a deck. But, you know, there's lots of times where that's all I've got, and I'll go do an hour show, just messing around, you know. I wouldn't bring just a deck of cards to a paid gig, but if I'm at a party, I might do an hour, 2 hours of magic with just a deck. Is it still entertaining? Sure. I think if someone's paying you to do magic, then you should come prepared, and you should do more than just card tricks, unless that's your you know, what you do. If that's who you are and you're just the card guy, and you do an elegant card show and that's how you advertise it, then that's fair. But to me, don't just have one prop. Johnny T asks, sleight of hand, gimmicks, or both? Both. Absolutely both. Grant, what inspired you to start magic? I was young. I think I was between 6 and 8 years old, and a friend of mine showed me the silk vanish. And he fooled me so badly, I said, well, do it with your sleeves up. Because I was sure it had to go up his sleeves. He rolled his sleeves up. He did it again right in front of me. And it killed me. He wouldn't tell me how it works, so I went and bought it from the bookstore out of the Klutz Book of Magic. That was the first thing I got. I learned it really well, and I showed my father. And keep in mind, I'm like 8, and I saw my dad very confused, and I fooled him. I knew I fooled him, and that got me. And ever since then, I've loved it. I've loved everything about magic. So that's what got me to start into magic, was that look on my dad's face, basically. How do you practice, and how many hours a day do you do so? I practice in a lot of ways. I've always got a close-up mat right in front of me. I jam with friends, on Skype, in person. How many hours a day? You know, there's some days where I'll practice one routine all day until I get it. If there's a routine I see of somebody else's that I really want to get, I'll do it 5, 6, 7 times in a row. I'll do the same thing the next day, 5, 6, 7 times in a row, to where it's second nature. It's muscle memory. I know the moves. I know what I'm supposed to do, and then I'll work on the routining. So I don't sit down and say, okay, every day I'm going to practice 3 hours. Some days I don't practice at all. Some days I'm too busy. Some days I practice almost all day. So it's kind of depending on the situation in the day. When creating something new in magic, how do you answer the question, has this been done before? What method do you use to determine the originality of a gimmick, sleight, or effect? Great question. That's by Chris. I've got some good friends in magic that are very, very knowledgeable, so I will usually go to them. You can ask Alexander. There's resources out there where you can do your research. But let's say you develop a coin effect. Call your coin magicians. Call the guys that you know. If you don't, put it out there on some forums. Make a video on YouTube. Or just do your research. Go to your library and do some homework. I've invented effects that have already been invented. Everybody has, and anyone who creates will do that. But always ask as many people as you can. If you put something out accidentally that you've reinvented the wheel and it's brought to your attention, do the right thing. Give credit where credit is due. Contact the originator. Let people know, hey, this was thought up independently, but so-and-so also did. So you just ask around. You got to do your homework, and the more people in the industry you know, the better, especially the knowledgeable ones. There's some great ones out there. People who just know, you show them something and they developed by so-and-so in this year from this book. So I ask the people that I have in my network, basically. How do you go about things when a friend or friends want you to perform at their party, but they assume that you do it for free, next to nothing? You explain to them you don't. I have people who ask a lot. And they say, hey, you want to come do my birthday party? I say, sure, I'll send you my promo package. And that lets them know you're a professional. You're not going to do this for free. And let them ask you, no, I really need it as a favor. And to be honest, I don't do it for people as favors. I just can't, because this is my bread and butter. So, you know, that's business. You have to be harsh. If it's your mother or I mean, if you want to do a free show, then you let them know, look, I'll do this for you, but you do realize I get paid to do this. Please don't tell people, you know, I'm doing it for free. But I just don't let them assume it. You know, I let them know how much my fee is. So, what, if anything, bothers you about magic in the industry today, or new magicians? You know, we all have our issues with magic. We all have our issues with everything. I think there's a lot of complaining in magic. I think there's a lot of bitterness and a lot of egos in magic. But all you do is you don't hang out with those people, or whatever issues bother you, you just steer clear of them and do your own thing. You know, let the haters hate and do your own thing and be positive. And you know, you're in magic because you love it, so take what you love from it and leave the stuff that you don't for the birds. You know. Brett asks, what is the best way to get started as a full-time performer? I sort of touched on that already. You know, learn the business, learn the marketing. It's hard. You know, it's not just because you're a great magician doesn't mean you're going to be a full-time performer. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of work. Best thing I can say is get out there. Be seen. Get in front of people. Go out there and say, I do this. Could I do it at your restaurant? Contact booking agents. You know, I'm rebuilding from Vermont to New Hampshire right now. It's a challenge. You know, it's an everyday challenge. So just get out there. Be seen, be known, and make sure your business is just as good as your magic. What's your favorite card control? My favorite card control is, I will show you. I think probably the one I do most often would be card selected. Say stop. Great. Place it in. You look away. I'll mix them up so we don't know where it is. That's probably my favorite. It's very simple, and it's deceiving. You can throw a false shuffle in after. So, when did you start performing magic? I touched on that. I was about 6 or 8. How do you know when you've come up with something great? Sometimes you just get the feeling, and you get the idea and go, oh man, this is good. This is really good. Sometimes, you know, I showed Pete an effect on the project coming out months before it came out, and he goes, that's my favorite thing you've shown me. It kind of blew me away. I didn't think it was that good, but I respect his opinion very much. So when he said that, I said, hey, cool. So sometimes people let you know, and sometimes you just know. This question makes no sense, so I'm going to go to the next one. What is one routine that you never miss at a performance? What would be your advice when it comes to presenting a routine? Know it down cold. Know the ins and outs. Know it where you could close your eyes and do the routine. So it feels natural. You can improvise, you can talk to people, you can deal with the situation as it arises around you. The one that I never miss, you know, that I've got a half a dozen to a dozen that I know I can do with my eyes closed. If I get a heckler, I know it will fry them. So yeah, I mean, I guess the answer to that is just know your material so well that no matter what the situation, you can pull it out. You don't have to know every effect that way. You got to try new effects for the first time, but have a handful that you know you can 100% do every time. This is from Joshua. When looking at an effect, how much do you take the method into account? Would you rather have a complex method but amazing outcome, or a simpler method with a not as amazing outcome? Would you ever ignore an effect that looks great in a trailer, but to actually do the effect is more than feasible for the real world? Well, yes. Of course, I wouldn't. There are effects that have fooled me. I've bought them, and I wouldn't do them in the real world. That's why we've all got drawers of things that we never pull out again. When looking at an effect, to me, I need a reaction more than I need the method. Some things are fun to do. They feel great in the hands, but you don't get the best. I've taken a lot of tricks out of my repertoire that I loved, but they just didn't get the reaction I wanted. I used to do a triumph version, one of my own triumphs, and I thought it was so fun to do, and you had a diagonal palm shift and all these fun things, but people were just kind of like, cool. But I could do a slap shuffle triumph and get an amazing reaction, so, you know, to me, reaction is more important than method all day. Next question. When creating tricks, how often do you find your motivation, train of thought, and what's the process you go through? Oh, I'm sorry. When creating tricks, how do you find your motivation, train of thought, and what's the process? My process is unique. A lot of times I'll look at an item and I'll just say, I see this, I know there's something here, so I'll rack my brain to come up with something. Sometimes it'll just hit me and I'll go, hey, this might be cool. A lot of times when I'm sleeping, I'll wake up and have an idea, and I have a notepad right next to me. I'll write it down and work with it and jam with friends and see what I can come up with. Sometimes I just say, I want to be able to do this. This would be amazing if I could do this. How do I get there? And I just keep it in a log of notes and go back to it. And if I ever feel like I'm stumped and I'm in a creative kind of a lull, then I'll just go to the notebook. Or, in my book, Creative Magic, I've got all the tips and tricks and techniques that I use myself to get into a creative mindset. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Do you have any tips on making magic more magical or special? Connect with your audience, get them to like you as opposed to the magic, and don't make the magic about you. Make it something you're sharing with them. You're giving them a gift, and you really are. So focus more on fooling them. Focus more on entertaining them as opposed to fooling them. Get them on your side, befriend them, ask them about their day and who they are and what they do. Be a real person to them. And that in turn will make your magic more memorable and more special to these people. Also, giving them a souvenir of an impossible object is a great way. It's a memory they take with them. So, how did I get my first show? How much do you charge for 1 hour of walk around? Or how much should you charge, I think he meant to say, for an hour of walk around as a beginner. My first show was a birthday party that I think I got from a friend's mom at school or something. I can't tell you how much to charge as a beginner. That's an impossible question for me to answer. You could be a beginner who's a phenomenal entertainer. You could be a beginner who really doesn't have good enough magic to be performing, so it's impossible for me to tell you that. If you're looking to get booked and you don't know how much you should charge, look in your area, see how much other people charge. But that's just a tough question. That's why no one answers that question, because it's really hard to answer. So I can't give you a straight this much answer right now. It really depends on your market, how talented you are, and what you're offering, what kind of show you're doing. If it's walk around, know your market and bill accordingly. All right, I'm going to switch over here to the YouTube questions. I'm just going to start from the top and go down as much as I can. I don't want to go too long and bore you guys, but I'll get through as many as I can here. So, how did you start performing professionally and working with Ellusionist? Well, again, performing professionally, I started when I did a birthday show, and then I just kind of ran from there. And over the years, I was very young. I was, I think, 11 or 12, and I did my first birthday show. I got a check and felt great, so I ran with that. Working with Ellusionist, I submitted a trick. I started talking to some of the guys, and then, reached out, started running the forums. I was the forum director, and through that was going back and forth with Brad, and then, we had a few conversations and hit it off, and that's kind of how I started with Ellusionist. I worked really hard. I was on Facebook all the time, answering questions when I could. I was in the forums. I was putting videos up, entering contests. I submitted a trick, earbuds. So that was kind of the start. This is a great question. This is from, let's see, I don't see the name here, but it says, "Hey Adam, this may sound really silly, but as a person who hasn't really told anyone that I'm obsessed with deception, how do I tell my family and friends about my passion for this hobby? I know it's nothing to be ashamed of, but I feel like the term magic has a different meaning to them as opposed to how I see it. Thanks so much from Australia." Well, hello Brian from Australia. I would just be honest. Go up to them and say, "Hey, I'm really into magic. You want to see something cool?" And they should have no reason to not want to see it. If they don't, well, so be it. It's their loss. But just be honest. It's not like you're telling them that you just committed murder. So just say, "Hey, I've really been digging magic. I've been studying it for a while. I've learned quite a few things. There's a whole community and industry around it. So here, let me show you something." Just be open and honest with them. Okay, this is, let's see, I think it's Raven. Raven with a 3 instead of an E. It's clever. "I'm looking into getting booked at a restaurant gig. I already have repertoire for it. What I would like to know is what type of restaurant should I attempt to work at? How long should my routines be? How many nights a week? How much to charge? And how many hours a night?" Okay. Your restaurant should be whatever kind of clientele you're trying to get for yourself. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Sorry about that. If you want to work kid shows, go to a family restaurant. If you want to work corporate gigs, go to a high-end restaurant. And don't give up when they say no, because a lot of restaurants will turn you down, but once you get the one you want, you're golden. So that's how you determine the type of restaurant. How long should the routines be? They should be very short. It could be a 3-phase routine, but you should be able to end at the first phase and have that still be a very powerful effect, because you'll learn in restaurants at any moment you may have to leave. The food is always going to be more important than you, unfortunately. So short, visual, and high impact. How many nights a week? 2 nights a week would be great if the restaurant wanted you there. That's a lot of work. Anywhere from 1 to 4 hours at a restaurant is usually custom or standard, but 4 hours of restaurant work is a lot of work. You'll see you're doing a lot of magic and you're on your feet and you're high energy. It drains you. So however many nights they want you and fits best with the restaurant. You don't want to oversaturate yourself, because then they're going to feel they don't need you anymore. But normally when I do them, it's 1 night a week. A couple different restaurants, 1 night a week. Then you're doing restaurant magic 3 or 4 times a week. So how much should you charge? Very touchy subject. Some people don't charge. Some people just want to hand out their cards. Some people, when I was doing quite a few, I would charge, most of them it was $100 for 2 hours and a free dinner. It doesn't seem like a lot, and it's not, but you're handing out your cards to people who have money to go eat. So think about that. You're there for a reason, and it's not just for the money. Some restaurants will pay well, but usually not. Usually they're gonna look at you as an expense as opposed to adding value. So you gotta let them know what value you're adding, and then you've also got to realize you're not gonna be making what you make at a normal show at a restaurant. So, okay. This guy asks, why are you now starting to use the word work in your projects, like the Worker Part 1 and 2 and the Working Man? You know, the work, because I look at it as because these are real world working effects. These are things that work in the real world when you're getting paid at gigs. They're commercial magic. I got the nickname from the team because every time we're out, I go out and work whatever audience is there. I love doing magic to laymen. So, you know, I think I kind of got the name The Worker because of wherever we were at any time of day, I would be out there showing magic, and it stemmed from that. But then it also is that these routines are workers. You know, you get out there and you perform them in the real world to real people, and you get real reactions. So, why are you a magician? I think I touched on that just because of I was kind of hooked from when I was young. A lot of these are the same questions, so I'm just going to scroll through until I find a new one. This is kind of a funny one from Luke, Luke Bush. What is your go-to effect when performing in the hood? It's actually hilarious. I don't know. Whatever feels right when I'm performing in the hood. There's not a lot of hoods in New Hampshire, but you know, if I'm in New York or something, I don't know. Whatever feels right at the time. There would probably be a color change in someone's hand. What is your advice for advanced young magicians looking for work? Again, you know, it's getting out there. That's really all I can say about it. Get out there. Put the business before the magic. Someone's starting out in magic, what direction would I send them? You know, get into a club. Get some people that are around you that will take you under their wing. If you can't do that, get some good literature, get some good projects, some good DVDs, some good beginner stuff. It's out there. Read the reviews on the forums, online, and just do your homework. You know, you really have to put the time in. But there's a lot of good material out there, and there's a lot of places to find out what is junk material. So do a little bit of research before you spend money, and then, you know, get some great stuff. We've got great beginner stuff on our site. There's great beginner books all over the place. So that is what I would say to that. What is the meaning of life? That's going to be on the next project coming out this week. So pick that up and you'll find out what the meaning of life is. Good question. Can you solve a Rubik's Cube? And if you can you do it in this video? I absolutely cannot solve a Rubik's Cube. But I have some pretty cool ideas with this little guy, so you might see those at some point. But no, I can't. Honest question, honest answer. Can you do other magic apart from cards, like coins or solving a Rubik's Cube? And another question. If you can do other magic, what's your favorite non-card trick to do to people? And if you don't do any other magic apart from cards, why don't you learn and expand your own magic? Yes, I do a lot of other stuff besides cards. I love cards, that's my passion, as I think a lot of magicians are. But yes, probably, if I just said right now, my favorite at the moment non-card trick is Charming Chinese Challenge by Troy Hoosier. I love doing that. I just did that yesterday and it killed, so that answers that. I do a lot of other stuff besides cards. How many tricks do you normally perform to a person or people on the street? Situational. If they're loving it and I'm in a great mood, you know, I might do 30 minutes of magic. If I'm in a rush, if they're in a rush, if they're not grasping onto the magic, I might do one trick. So it really just depends. How do you perform on the street for tips? I don't know, because I don't do that. Some great material. Cosmo is a good friend of mine. He's one of the best buskers out there and makes a damn good living doing magic on the street. So he's got some material specifically on that. You can check that out. We'll do a couple more here. Hey Adam, I've been having trouble impressing other people at my high school with magic. Teenagers are very skeptical, it can be hard to fool. What is your preferred visual effect that always devastates people's minds? Or perhaps, do you know any tricks that will stump the teens and the know-it-alls? Yeah, you know, something like mental photography deck, you know, invisible deck. Those things are very hard to figure out. They're a little more common, so people might know it, but you know, I think getting the audience on your side, and yes, teenagers are hard. I do a lot of project graduations, so these people think they know a lot and know it all, but if you get them to like you and relate to them, you know, do some strong magic that maybe doesn't use a lot of hard sleights or things you might get caught in, and make it fun for them. Off the top of my head, maybe some mentalism. You know, you can pick up some Mark Spellman, a good friend of mine, has some great mentalism work. We've got some awesome stuff on the site, some crazy stuff coming out from mentalism. So a lot of times the mentalism, it's not as move heavy, but it's very hard to figure out. So maybe try that, maybe go down that route. What are your thoughts on scripting magic versus just improvising it? That's a great question. I think you should have a script in your mind. You should script things out and know where you want to go with it, and use that as the backbone of your presentation from group to group. A lot of times when someone says something funny, if you just talk over it because your script justifies that, you lose that feeling of being there, of being part of the group. Acknowledge that this guy just said something, you know, sometimes people say things that are 10 times funnier than I'll ever say. So use it, you know, break your script and then turn it into an improvising moment. So I think you should have a script in mind as a backbone and improvise when needed, or when you can. All right, let me answer one more. It's been over 30 minutes here, so I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to bore you. Let me find one good one. All right, well, this will kind of sum it up. How do you define magic? That's a hell of a question. How do I define magic? I would have to define it for me personally, and magic is, for me, a tool to connect with people on a level that no other art or really nothing else can connect with them. So for me, magic is a tool to make a connection in a way that lasts forever. You're giving them a moment that takes away everything else. I do a lot of magic at a children's hospital, and these kids range from you know, terminally ill to just broken arms, but they're, you know, they've got issues, they've got trouble, they've got things that worry them, and they're scared. And if you do a good magic to them or to anyone, it helps them for even a moment forget about whatever issues, concerns, or troubles they're dealing with, and just have that moment of wonder and realize anything's possible. You know, I don't want to sound cliche, but really that's it. It's a way to get people out of their day-to-day and connect with them in a way that's very special. I think music is close to that. A really good song that connects with a person in a certain way will take you away. It'll take you on a trip and a journey, and you'll forget about whatever issues you've got for that moment. I think that's what magic is to me. So again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to write all the questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them. If I didn't answer yours directly, you know, feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email or Facebook me and ask, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. But I really appreciate all the questions. There's just a ton. I wish I could have gotten through all of them. Keep an eye out for my next project coming out this week. I really think you guys will like it, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So I've been Adam Wilber. You guys have been a pleasure, and I really, once again, I appreciate your time, and we will see you guys soon. Take care and be well. Peace.